The Job Well Done. The Queen's Way to Successful Leadership
by Dr. Maheshika Halbeisen.
How it all began. The early 1930s were a time of major uncertainty around the world. While the threat of war was not imminent yet, political tensions were rising, as were the demands for change. During these unsettled times, Princess Elizabeth was born into a life of privilege and luxury. But even as a baby, it was clear that the princess was a gentle and sensitive soul, soon becoming the darling of her grandparents, King George V and Queen Mary. They were completely smitten with her and doted on her at every opportunity they got, taking the princess on walks in the palace gardens, pointing out the different flowers and birds, and telling her stories about the royal family. Princess Elizabeth and her sister Margaret were also shown a lot of love and affection by her parents, the Duke and Duchess of York. When her future husband, Prince Philip, first visited the family at the palace for the first time, he was impressed with the amount of time Princess Elizabeth would share with her parents. Having had little chance to do so himself, and their closeness as a family made a big impression on him. Princess Elizabeth would soon be introduced into the world, as her parents took her to events and ceremonies, meeting the people of England and the other members of the royal family. As the princess grew up, her grandparents and parents became her closest companions and confidants, and she looked up to them with great admiration and affection. They were her first teachers and role models, teaching her about duty, honor, compassion, and privilege. At family gatherings, King George V would often invite the young princess to join him at the dinner table, asking her about her interests and hobbies. This close relationship between the king and his granddaughter helped foster a lifelong love of horses in Princess Elizabeth, while her father encouraged her to pursue her interests and passions and instilled in her a strong sense of duty and responsibility when the duty of becoming the new king was imposed upon the Duke of York. Following the abdication of his brother, Princess Elizabeth's father did not consider himself up for the job. Aware of his responsibility to restore the dignity of the monarchy, however, he accepted the challenge and devoted his whole life to his country with the devoted support of his wife. We must take what is coming to us and make the best of it. Queen Mother on the 10th of December 1936. Under his guidance, Princess Elizabeth grew into a confident, ambitious, and determined young woman who was respected by all who knew her. From the first moment of talking, she showed so much character that it was impossible not to wonder whether history would repeat itself. Osbert Sitwell reported a conversation the Duke had mentioned about his eldest daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, comparing her to Queen Victoria. From an early age, Princess Elizabeth showed clear signs of dedication, thoroughness, and a sense of responsibility for which she would later become famous. Unable to rest until everything was in its place, she would even as a little girl neatly fold her clothes and place her shoes perfectly under her bed every night. If she ever noticed anything was out of place, she would jump right out of bed to fix it. Today, we may be tempted to put this down as a sign of a compulsive disorder, but back then, this was seen as a sign of her responsible nature. She was always working towards her goals, and was much more serious and eager to please her parents than her younger sister. Princess Elizabeth was tidy, practical, and reserved, just like her grandparents wanted. She even kept detailed records of all the Christmas gifts that she and her sister received, just so she could send the proper thank you notes. The outbreak of the Second World War brought an abrupt end to the sheltered and carefree childhood of Princess Elizabeth. While other wealthy families in the country chose to leave London and seek refuge in the country, the royal family made the conscious decision to remain despite recommendations from the Foreign Office to evacuate. King George VI felt it was important to show solidarity with the people of Britain during that difficult time. They refused to abandon the capital and instead chose to stay in London and share in the hardships and dangers faced by the rest of the country. This decision not only demonstrated their commitment to the well-being of their subjects, but also served to boost morale and inspire hope among the British people during one of the darkest periods in their history. "The children will not leave unless I do. I shall not leave unless their father does, and the king will not leave the country under any circumstances whatsoever." Queen Mother in 1940. The time would have a lasting impact on Princess Elizabeth, being forced to see the suffering of her family and their people, as well as the bombing of both Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, but witnessing also firsthand the effect of demonstrating bravery and stoicism on maintaining the spirit of people high, thereby helping a nation to keep together. This was needed as Britain came to the brink of collapse, with many urging the political leaders to sue for peace. The Queen Mother described walking in the city after the bombing as walking a dead city. "I am glad we've been bombed. It makes me feel I can look the East End in the face." Queen Mother after the German attack at Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle in 1940 during the war. At the age of 16, Princess Elizabeth insisted on playing her part in the war effort and signed up to work at the London Exchange, but her application was rejected. Instead, she became the honorary colonel of the Grenadier Guards. By 18, she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service ATS and was trained as a mechanic and driver. Despite her small stature, those who saw her were impressed by her regal dignity. Lady Early noted, "Something about her, that indescribable something which Queen Victoria had." She also made her first speech aimed at motivating children of the Commonwealth, who had to leave their homes for their safety in 1940 on the BBC. After the war, the girls, led by Princess Elizabeth, organized plays at Windsor Castle. The gesture was greatly received by adults, as well as children all over the world. "And when peace comes, remember it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place." Princess Elizabeth in 1940. 2 years after the war, Princess Elizabeth married Prince Philip, who was renowned as a brave military man. He was a first lieutenant and second in command of the destroyer HMS Chequers that operated from Malta with the Mediterranean fleet. Princess Elizabeth's wedding day was a mix of pride and sadness for her father. In a letter to his daughter, King George VI wrote how proud and thrilled he was to walk her down the aisle, but he felt like he had lost something precious when he gave her hand to the Archbishop. He went on to express his admiration for the princess and her calmness during the wedding service. "I was so proud and thrilled at having you so close to me on our long walk in Westminster Abbey. But when I handed your hand to the Archbishop, I felt I had lost something very precious. You were so calm and composed during the service and said your words with such conviction that I knew everything was all right. I have watched you grow up all these years with pride, under the skillful direction of Mummy, who, as you know, is the most marvelous person in the world in my eyes, and I can, I know, always count on you. And now Philip to help us in our work." King George VI, in his letter to his daughter, Princess Elizabeth, on her wedding day, "To understand a man, you must know what was happening in the world when he was 20. The quote by Napoleon could not be truer for Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen carried the values of the 1940s generation throughout her life, as she became known for being decent, discreet, and always fulfilling her obligations. Our lives are guided by our values, which serve as a guide to ensure that our actions are consistent with our beliefs. They also help us stay connected to our essential identities. They affect our behavior, personality, attitude, thinking, and decision-making. Values are significant in life. Even while society has a hand in shaping some of our values, there is still a part of us that does not alter despite the changes we go through in our personal lives, interpersonal connections, and contacts with the outside world. Regardless of one's position in society, being sincere, willing to take a lead, and determined to do the right thing are virtues of great leadership and will inspire others to do better. Be honest with your values after defining them. Your confidence and sense of self-worth will be at an all-time high when you know what you stand for. And act on your convictions, regardless of how awful the circumstances may be. In this book, we are exploring the leadership lessons from the 70-year reign of Her Majesty the Queen, through what she did, how she did things, what we associate her with, and what we think drove her to become such a beloved person. In the words of Dame Maggie Smith, to become the best of Britain.